Hello, everyone. This is Eric from Helps YouTube Live today, Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. Glad to have you here. My name's Eric, 74, attorney for 46 years, the founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm. We represent seniors and disabled persons who have debt they can't afford to pay. Welcome to our channel. If you have any questions, put them in the chat feature. Our number one mission is to protect seniors from debt collector harassment. We do that under a law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which provides if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors can order calls, send you demand letters anymore. They have to communicate with the attorney, and that's what Helps does. Okay. Our second mission is to educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. And that's one reason we have these YouTube live videos, so we can answer some other questions that have to do with your situation. So welcome. Glad to have you here. And I'll deal with the questions as they come up. I'll just start, before I get to the questions, I'll just start out with this one. Person contacts us from Florida. My husband and I are 70 and 67 years of age, respectively. We were both on Social Security. We had to stop paying on several credit cards due to lack of funds. We have both been served with a complaint from Capital One and Discover Card. We have been sued by Bank of America, but not served with a complaint yet. We have received a threatening letter from Chase Bank. What should we do? So it says they both receive Social Security. Okay, let me just that. They both get Social Security. Your Social Security is protected. If someone were to sue you and get a judgment, okay, they can't take your Social Security. They can't take your pension, your disability, your VA benefits. They're protected by federal law. And then in 2012, there was a law put in effect that protects twice the amount of your federal benefit deposited in your bank account from a garnishment, regardless if there's other funds in there. So if you got $1,500 each in Social Security, that would be $3,000. One bank account times two would be $6,000 to be protected in your bank account. So we've been served with a complaint from Capital One. Now you can always defend the lawsuit, but if you owe the money, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do anything. We have been sued by Bank of America and not served with a complaint yet. We have received a threatening letter from Chase. Just a minute. My computer signs me out once in a while. There we go. So I talked to someone earlier today, and I may have some notes on them. A nice woman from Florida that was really, wait a minute here. I was really stressed about being sued in Florida. She had heard something about having to answer some questions. And what she was referring to was a form called the fact information sheet. Okay, so we don't give legal advice, but we give legal information, and we tell people about the fact information sheet. That's just a legal form in Florida. If they get a judgment, the creditor, the attorney for the creditor, automatically sends you this form, and it's got about a dozen or so questions. Some of them don't apply. We help people fill that form out. I mean, it's pretty simple. A lot of the questions won't apply to you. Some of them ask for your children's names and addresses. I don't know what any business of that is there. I've never seen a creditor, if a client didn't answer that question about their children's name and address, ever bring it up. When you let them know that your income is Social Security and a pension, they know they can't collect anything from you. That's pretty much the end of it. The reason they send you this stuff after they get a judgment, or even they sue you if they know you're on Social Security, is they count on you not knowing that your judgment proof, or that your assets are protected, or that they can't do anything. They count on you not knowing that, and that you'll call them and make arrangements to make payment. They don't have any obligation to tell you that your income is protected and that you don't have to pay. So once again, if you have any questions, call us. Numbers down below, 855-435-7787. But we're going to be able to answer your questions. So let's see. John says, I received a summons this morning delivered by the sheriff for property taxes. Question mark. Sued. It says I have to submit an answer within 14 days. I owe the taxes. So what am I? I kind of doubt it's for property taxes. There's a process for collecting property taxes, but doesn't involve a lawsuit. So, if you're, do I need to submit the document to help? Yeah, if you're a member who helps get us, we'll tell you what to do. If it's like 14 days, it sounds like you've been sued in small claims court for something. And, if your income's protected and you owe this money, you don't need to do anything, but we'll go over it with you. Okay? Yeah, get it to us so we can look at it. So Kim says, I'm in a nursing home and they are charging me $360 a day. By the time I leave, it will be an exorbitant amount of money. Do I have to pay that amount? Well, okay, so let's talk about nursing home care. In this country, we have something, you've heard of Medicare. When you turn 65, you can get Medicare. And then if you have needs, like you're sick or you have to go into a nursing home and you don't have enough money, then you can get on what's called Medicaid. Okay. And so that's funded by the federal government, but it's administered by the state. And in order to get on Medicaid, you have to use your own funds normally until you're down to like $2,000. Okay. And then after that, the government picks up and pays the bill. Okay. Now, if you're married and one of the spouses in a nursing home and the other spouses, no, you don't have to sell the home in order to pay for the nursing home care. Okay, you can stay there. But theoretically, when the survivor passes away, the government would have a lien on that home, and you'd have to pay for that debt for the nursing home care for the surviving spouse, for the spouse that passed away earlier. Okay, now, so sometimes I'll tell people that if you go into a nursing home and you've got a certain amount of money to pay for it, and you know it's going to run out, you want to make sure that you go into a nursing home that accepts Medicaid patients, because if they can't kick you out. They don't get paid as much on Medicaid as they get on a private pay. So if you had to go into a nursing home, you want to make sure you go in a facility that would accept a Medicaid patient. Now, even if they have one patient that's on Medicaid, that means any other patient they have in that facility, they're going to have to accept them. They can't ask them to leave. I don't see our clients being asked to leave anyway, but the law provides it. They can't ask you to leave as long as they have at least one client that's on Medicaid. Anyone else that has to go on Medicaid, they have to keep them there. So you pay your regular payment until your money's down to $2,000, and then you get on Medicaid. Okay. So to answer your question is, no, if you run out of money, you can get on Medicaid, then you won't have to pay it. The government will pick up the bill and pay it. Do I need to submit all of it? It's a lot of pages. Usually the first 3 or 4 pages is all we need if there's a lawsuit. Yeah, you can get, I don't know the fax number off the top of my head, but you can fax it to us. It's on our website, or you can text it to us, or you can email it to us at info@helpsishere.org, info@helpsishere.org, John. Did you say that Michigan seems to get sued more than other states? Most creditors or collectors are seen after. Well, I don't know that factually, but I'm guessing that the reason is because Michigan has a program that they will give you a rebate or a refund for property taxes that you've paid. Now, even if you rent, they consider that part of your rent went to pay property taxes, and if you file a tax return or another form, you're going to get a refund of $1,200 to $1,500. And this is a kind of a unique program for Michigan. But then they allow the creditor to if they sue you and get a judgment, they can garnish the Michigan Department of Revenue to get that refund. Because of that, I think a lot of Michigan people get sued because, especially if they're seniors or poor, because they think the creditor thinks, okay, well, they're going to file for this property tax rebate and we're going to be able to garnish it. And that's why they do it. Okay. So once again, if you have any questions, if I don't answer them or not completely, or there's questions that need to be followed up, don't hesitate. Um, don't hesitate in contacting us. That's what we're here for. Um, which reminds me to someone else I talked to this morning. I talked to a nice lady yesterday. Where was she from? I can't remember. I'll get to it here. But what were the facts? Let's see here. I got it right down here. Okay, Georgia. And I talked with her yesterday, then again today. She was really worried about a lawsuit against her and a potential judgment. She had a home. It wasn't worth a whole lot. I mean, for her it was a lot, but $100,000 free and clear. Now the homestead exemption in Georgia, I think, is like $30,000 for a single person, something like that. And she was sued by Capital One for $8,000, and she was worried they're going to take her home. I told her that it's not the practice of consumer judgment creditors like a credit card to go after a person's home, even if you have equity in the home over and above the homestead for the state where you live. I explained to her that she could. She had one son who gets the home when she passes away. I said you could include his name on the home. You could add his name before they get a judgment. That way, when you die, the property will go into his name, and the judgment will disappear. But she called me again after yesterday, after I told her she didn't need to worry. After we were done talking with her, I kind of apologized to her. I said, I may have been a little blunt with you, telling you again that you didn't need to worry. And I assured her, which I want to assure all our clients, is the whole purpose of helps is if you're ever worried, you pick up the phone and you call, no matter how often. Even if you called me yesterday and talked to us yesterday, and we clearly explained why you didn't need to worry. And that's what and so I told her, I said, you call again if you're worried. Whenever you worry, you give us a call. Okay. Now, why aren't they going to go after her home? Well, it's a complicated process. I probably filed 30 or 40,000 bankruptcies and help since 2012. It's simply not the practice of consumer judgment creditors like a credit card company that gets a judgment to choose to go after a person's home. They don't do it for a lot of different reasons. Now, if they were to do it, there's things that could be done to stop something from prevent them from being able to take your home. Now, I'm not talking about a mortgage that you don't pay. I'm talking about a debt for like a credit card or a loan. Okay? Okay, so let's go back. Person contacts us from Alabama. I'm 65 years old. I lost my job in this last September. I've not been able to find another job making the same salary, and I've been forced to sign up for early Social Security. I have a lot of credit card debt that I can no longer pay. I thought I was going to have to file bankruptcy until I learned about you. That's right. Um, I started practice in 1978. I probably filed my first bankruptcy within 3 or 4 months after starting. I started practicing law by myself. When I was in law school, I worked for a law firm, and they offered me a job, and I could have went, but I decided I want to go back to my hometown, and I didn't want to work for someone, and so I started my practice on myself, which I'm glad I did. And then I did all kinds of law until 1986. In 1986, I decided that I would just concentrate on bankruptcy and started a large bankruptcy firm that still is in existence, and did that. And then finally, I would talk to a lot of seniors, like this guy, okay, in Alabama. Uh, he couldn't pay his debt, and they come see me, and they wanted to file bankruptcy, but they couldn't afford bankruptcy. It had become pretty expensive as time went on. And then I told him you didn't need to file bankruptcy because no one could touch your Social Security, no one could touch your pension, no one could go after your other assets. But I knew if I sent them home, the creditors could call them on the phone, and they could get sued, and they wouldn't know what to do. So Helps was founded so that we could represent people, seniors especially, and disabled persons under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act in order to stop collectors from harassing them. So when they call, we ask questions. When they enroll, we don't turn anyone away. The cost is minimal. And then they give us the creditors they owe money to. We're going to send a cease and desist letter, and they're going to stop bothering them. Now, and like this gentleman, if he got sued, you get us a copy of the lawsuit. We contact the attorney that sued you. We let them know that your income is protected. We call you and send you emails explaining why you're not going to have to go to court. Uh, and so, and we don't represent people in court because you don't need to go to court, and they can't do anything to you. So uh, that's our important message to seniors. Okay, is that your income is protected, and under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, you could stop the creditors from harassing you. What kind of letter is sent to the attorney on a court summons, and does this deter them from following through with the suit? I apologize if I've already answered this. You don't need to apologize. I answer the same questions over and over again. That's because new people listen to our channel all the time, and a lot of people like to hear the answer more than once. And so, no, I don't mind that. And so, to answer your question, is if you get sued, we have a letter that we send. We ask you to get us a copy of the lawsuit. Usually, the first 3 or 4 pages is enough. We don't need the whole thing. Like this gentleman beforehand said, he's got a whole bunch of pages. No, I don't need the whole thing. But we need the name of the attorney in this, and then we're going to send them a letter, let him know that your income is protected. You can't pay the debt. We understand they're going to get a judgment. Remind them of the protected nature of your bank account, although they can't take your bank account anyway for the reasons I explained. So it isn't that fancy of a letter, but it just lets them know, hey, we're not going to do anything. Now, does this deter them from following through with the lawsuit? Occasionally, people will call me and let us know that the creditor dismissed the lawsuit. And maybe it's because they got that letter, but don't count on it. Doesn't matter if they get a judgment or not. They're not going to be able to collect. Okay? And then once again, if you're ever worried through any of this stuff, you pick up the phone and you call, no matter how often. So this person contacts us from Maryland. I need help before they put a judgment against me in court. I tried to work out a settlement. The credit card company would not work with a reasonable amount. Please help. Well, we can't prevent if you get sued. We don't represent people in court, and we can't prevent a judgment being taken against you. Probably you can't either. If you could contest the lawsuit, but if you owe the money, you got to assume they're eventually going to get a judgment. But it doesn't matter. You don't need to settle with them, whether it's a reasonable or not. When you enroll in Helps, you're going to give us a copy of the lawsuit. We're going to send a letter to the attorney letting them know that your income is protected. We're going to give you all the information you need to understand how your income and assets are going to be safe and that you don't need to worry. So that's what we do. Now, does that mean that the enrollment helps and you stop paying the creditors, you're going to get sued? Not necessarily. You might. I tell people it doesn't matter if you're sued or not. I used to give a percentage of how many people would get sued, my guess. I don't do that anymore because if it's more than what I say, then people get upset. But it doesn't matter. If you had 10 creditors you didn't pay and they all 10 sued you and got judgments against you and you're on Social Security and a pension, you don't need to worry. Your income's protected. They can't do anything to you. You're judgment proof. You're going to be fine. Okay? So welcome to our channel. Hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel. We always ask people to share what helps does with others. As far as I know, we're the only law firm in the nation that provides this service, and which is very needful. So this guy writes in, he contacts, he says, I'm a 68-year-old man. I have online loans, payday loans, and credit card debt are overwhelming me. I'm still working part-time and also on Social Security. I'm aware of the protections of that money in my bank account. I'm more concerned about the paycheck garnishment. I have a debt consolidation company offering to pay them over some 48 months. That seems insane. Would it be better to do it during a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? I need help stabilizing my situation. Okay, so this guy gets Social Security and then he's working part-time and has a bunch of debt and he's worried about getting sued. Well, okay, he may or may not get sued. Payday loan probably isn't going to sue him. They could, but I doubt it. Online loan, maybe, maybe not. Online loan is located somewhere else usually. They'd have to sue you where you live, and that costs them money. Other credit card, even if they sue you, then the question is, do they know where you work? And that's not necessarily easy to find out. And the next question is, how much of your income is protected in the state where you live? Every state protects a minimum of $217.50 net per week in wages. That works out to $435 every 2 weeks, about $950 a month. And then a lot of states protect more than that. Okay, some states don't even allow garnishment of wages. South Carolina, Texas, and then some states protect $300 or $400 a week from wages, or $500 or $600. So we just don't run into a problem with our clients, with some of our helps clients who happen to work, and some of them do, letting us know that they've been garnished and that someone's taken the money. Now, if your money was at risk, the only way it's going to be at risk is if they'd have to sue you, and beforehand, and then they have to get a judgment, and that might take 3 or 4 or 6 months or longer before they get a judgment. Then they have to know where you work, and you'd have to make over a certain amount of money. Now, depending on where you live, they may not be able to garnish you, or a larger amount is protected. Or if there's a problem, you could adjust your income to make it less than what they could take. And you could do that even after they started a garnishment. And the last option, I guess, could be a bankruptcy, but it just doesn't happen that we have a problem with our clients that are worrying about being garnished. Okay? So Deborah asked, my 40-plus-year-old son had no income, no insurance. He passed away, I'm sorry, and the hospital put him as a charity case. We got letters from the emergency room, different medical bills. We also got some letters asking who the executor to his estate. Well, he had no estate. No estate. And you're not liable for any of his debt. And so if you get a bill, all you need to do is write no estate, just send the bill back to them. Okay? That's all you need to do. No estate. And you're not responsible for your son's bills. And if you're a senior, your kids aren't going to be responsible for your bills either. So you don't need to worry, Deborah, at all. Not one bit. Okay? So this person writes in, they says, after researching and viewing your information, I would like to sign up for your program. How do I proceed and what information do I provide? Do I sign up online or via telephone? I have a credit card and personal unsecured loans. I am a senior with Social Security income only. Thank you. So uh, when you enroll with Helps, what happens is you find out about us. You see one of our YouTube videos, and you look at our website www.helpsishere.org. Where is it down there? Right. Look at either call on the phone or you send an inquiry, and we call you back. And then we're going to ask you some basic questions, like where you live, married or single, phone number. Are you buying your home or renting? Buying a car, own a car. Has anyone sued you? How much you owe in debt approximately? Just a bunch of different stuff. Like, do you owe any income taxes? Are you buying your home? Do you buying a car, own a car? What's your home worth? We have to ask these questions to determine, what your situation is and how we can help you. And then when you decide to enroll, we literally enroll people over the phone. And you don't need to fill out a form. No, we make it easy. The cost is minimal, and for some people it's free. We don't turn anyone away. And when you enroll, we click a button while you're on the phone, and you're going to get an email from us. We wait till you get this email. It says, welcome to Helps. It's a fairly long email. It has all our contact information, address, phone number, email addresses, and gives instructions how to get us the collectors. You text them, fax them, email them, or mail them to us. Just need the name, address, and account number. We don't need the balance. And then in 24 hours, we're going to send them a cease and desist letter. They're going to leave you alone. And then you're our client ongoing, which is the magic of Helps. Why is that important? Well, it means if one of these creditors we send letters to, if they give it to a new collection agency, and that new collection agency contacts you 6 months or a year down the road, then you're going to get a hold of Helps. We're going to send a letter out to that new collection agency so they leave you alone. If you happen to get sued, you're going to get us the lawsuit papers. We're going to contact the attorney. We're going to tell you why you don't need to worry. So you can always call and talk to us. Is income generated from rental property included in the federal earning limit? Well, there is no general federal earning limit. What's protected is Social Security, federal income, Social Security pension, a federal pension, like if you work for the government, or a VA benefit, or post office, or railroad. Those are federal benefits. Now, if you have a pension from some other company, it's still protected too. But the federal benefits are protected automatically up to twice the amount. Now, if some of this other money is deposited into the same account in which your federal benefit goes, as long as the balance in that account is less than twice the amount, it's protected automatically from garnishment. So your question is, if I have rents, is that included? Is that going to be protected? Well, that would be under state law, and it's probably not. But most of our clients don't have rents. But even if you did, it shouldn't be an issue. I'll explain why. Let's say you rent a room out. So a person, if they'd have to serve a writ of garnishment on your tenant. It just doesn't happen. So you can call and talk to us, but you're not going to have a problem with rentals. Should not. I mean, you could always think of a scenario where something bad could possibly happen. But whenever you think of those scenarios, you've always got to look at the odds of that happening. And I'm one who knows the odds, and it's so extremely rare that it's just not worth talking to getting people stirred up about things that aren't going to happen. Unfortunately, sometimes attorneys will do that. They'll get people stirred up about things that aren't going to happen. I've told this story before. When I was in law school, I was looking down the library and I saw a bunch of books with Coca-Cola. And it had the Coca-Cola symbol on the law books. And these were Coca-Cola cases from the 1930s, maybe the 20s. It could have been the 40s, but and there was about a dozen or so books there at least. And I said, what in the world are these? And these are all cases that had to do with Coca-Cola Company. And I started flipping through the cases. Some of the cases had to do with people getting a bottle of Coke and there'd be a thumb inside the bottle of Coca-Cola or some part of some animal. And so they sued the Coca-Cola Company. Now, do we worry about that today? No, but I guess in the 30s, things were a little bit different. Yeah, I mean, so you could talk about what, that the odds of that happening today is just not going to happen. So, no. But then the problem, I think, some attorneys, you know, yeah, if you get sued, you could lose this, that, or the other thing. They maybe scare people when they don't need to be scared when it's not going to happen. And if it were to happen, there's things that can be done to prevent it. Okay. Person from Georgia. Well, wait, no, this is someone else. Oh, yeah, I talked to a nice person from Florida today, 52 years old on Social Security disability, and she only got $990 in Social Security, 13,000 in debt. Was very worried, and she was on Social Security disability, SSI or SS Social Security disability, and wasn't getting a lot of money. Like I said, it was just a little bit less than $1,000. And part of her disability was PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. So she worried about things, and she was very worried about this debt and what they could do. And she started telling me all these things that they could possibly do. She wanted to talk about the Florida Fact Information Sheet, about filling that out. Well, she hadn't even been sued yet, but she was worried about it. And so I told her, I said, listen, you don't need to worry about this stuff. You can stop worrying about it. It's not. And I explained to her about the fact information sheet anyway, just to assure her what we do if she ever were so, and that why that wouldn't be an issue for her. And the bottom line is, I wanted her, and I want you to understand that it helps us here to always talk to you if you're worried or scared. In fact, we have about maybe 400, maybe 500 preloaded emails on a lot of different topics because we talk to seniors all over the country. And one of our topics is I call it our worry wart email. Worry, W-A-R-T, worry wart. Because a lot of the clients we talk to are worry warts. And it explains, why you don't need to worry and why you don't need to be concerned. But also we're careful to say that if you do ever worry, you pick up the phone and you call. And so that's what I told her. I said, you don't need to worry. And now I remember talking to her. We asked, how did you find out about helps? She had been searching all over. And then someone had just given her our number. And so she never even had been on our website or never seen any of our videos. So I went over everything we did. And at the end, I sent her some links. I sent her some what happens when a helps this client is sued, because she's worried about if she got sued, how her income was protected, and different stuff. And then a kind of a general email that had links to our videos on different topics. And I told her, I said, educate yourself about helps. And I'd say this to you, if this is your first time or you've only seen this, go educate yourself. Look at our comments that people make about helps. Look at our videos. Listen to what we talk about. We have videos on senior living. I want you to be comfortable, and then call and talk to us. We'll ask you some questions. Some people call 3, 4, 5, or 6 times, or even more, before they decide to enroll in helps. Okay. In 1962, I had 2 friends who worked for an old man running a small bottling machine. I don't know if I want to read this. For local soda, no modern bottle checks except myself. I used to watch them, and yes, Mike, in some bottles. Well, see, that was in 1962. I used to work in the cannery when I was a kid. Yeah, in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. Beans and corn, whatever it was. Mrs. H asks, is it better for a child to be on the property before a judgment is against the parent homeowner? Is that best? Will that stop them from taking the home later or getting money later? Well, okay. Um, in most states, like if you added a child as a joint owner with you with rights of survivorship, joint tenancy with rights of survivorship, um, and then someone sued you later and got a judgment. Okay, a judgment could become a lien on the equity in the home. They're not going to take the home. But then if you pass on, when you die, the property automatically goes to the other joint owner. And if that person was added to the property before uh, there was a judgment or the lawsuit before there was a judgment, your death, then the lien goes away. The property automatically transfers to the kid. So if you're going to do that, yeah, you do it before they get a judgment. Okay, here's one. I talked to this couple today. They didn't need helps, but this is their problem. Uh, the wife got $1,400 in Social Security. The husband got about $1,000, $2,400. They had a $1,500 house payment. Left them $900 to live on. They owed $140,000 on the home, and it was worth at the most $300,000, maybe a tad bit more. They had no debt, so they really technically didn't need helps. But he called because he says, we can't afford the house payment anymore. I don't know what to do. He's had cancer, medical costs, but they've been paid up to now. We discussed his options. I, I sent him an email on looking at possibly a reverse mortgage. It may or may not be possible. If he could get, he had first told me the house could be worth 400,000, but I got on the internet and said the most it could be worth would be 275. But if it was worth 400,000, he might have a chance of getting a reverse mortgage. What that would do is pay off the existing mortgage, so there's no mortgage payment. And then, assuming he passes away before his wife, because he's got fairly advanced cancer, then when he passes away, the wife will his Social Security go away. She'll get the higher of the 2 Social Securities, which is her Social Security. But if they got a reverse mortgage, she wouldn't have a house payment anymore, and she could stay in the home. And he was 81, she's 77. And I just talked about preparing for when he's gone, about other options they could look at. But I told him, I said, you really don't need what helps does. And then I don't know if I explained to him, but I would explain to him that, if you have medical, bills that you have to pay after Medicare, whatever, uh, you really don't need to pay them. You can use that money to help, for your living expenses. Is there a way to find out if there's judgment on property if a person has not been to court and didn't now? What? There used to, in most counties in the United States, you can get online and type in your information. You can find out about any judgments or lawsuits against you. Not all, but I would say the vast majority, they've put that information online and you can find out about it. Okay. If not, a title company can let you know, but usually you can find out online. Of course, you would normally know because someone would have served you with papers. I'm interested in finding out more about. Well, I'm interested. This guy writes us from Nevada. He says, "I'm interested in finding out more." He says, "I'm 69. I can't retire due to the keeping up with the debt. I was ill for many years from 2017 to 2022. Had to cash out retirement, then live and pay medical bills with credit cards. Filed bankruptcy in 2019, but again had cancer and disability, still chronic illness, heart condition, and immune disorders. Don't know much how longer I can work." Well, um, I'm assuming you're getting Social Security if you're 69. Uh, you could stop paying the debt. You could still work if you want, depending on where you live. There may not. You live in Nevada. Nevada is one of those states that has higher an exemption that protects a little bit more in income. I think it's like $400 a week or something like that. It might be more. I'm not sure. But someone would have to sue you and get a judgment, so you could stop paying the debt and use the money for your needs, for your food and your medicine, your rent. Remember, if anything I talk about, if you say to yourself, "Gee, I have a question about that. This might apply towards me." Don't hesitate in calling us. 855-435-7787. We've got very qualified paralegals and attorneys here at Helps online on stand right now talking to people. Um, yeah, in fact, there's a couple right now that could talk to people. Sometimes the lines are all lit up. Kind of depends. Guy calls us from Kansas, says, "I've been sued in small claims court in Wichita, Kansas. I need help." Well, you don't need to worry about the small claims court. If your income is Social Security, your pension, disability, you don't need to do anything. They can get a judgment they can't collect from you. Just keep the balance in your bank account less than twice the amount of your federal benefit. You don't want the creditors hounding you. Call Helps. We can enroll you in Helps. Send a letter to your debt collectors to whom you owe money, and they'll leave you alone. So what's small claims court? Most people know what it is. It's kind of a court. It's like a Judge Judy court where they make it a little expedited and simpler. And most small claims courts don't allow attorneys to appear, with one exception. Uh, if it's a corporation that sues in small claims court, then the corporation can have an attorney appear. And I would guess that in a lot of jurisdictions, the majority of small claims courts are debt collection cases where a debt collector is suing. So attorneys are in small claims courts all the time. So what? The the if you owe the money, you don't have to go to court. Okay, they're just going to get a judgment. Keep money less than twice the amount of your federal benefit in your bank account. Don't need to worry about it. Uh, now, If you enroll in helps, we're gonna reach out to the attorney who sued you, let him know your income is protected. We're gonna also explain to you why you're okay. So bottom line is we don't want you to worry. Person contacts us from Arizona. Does senior protection of Social Security and other assets are protected if I'm not over 65? And does medical debt have the same restrictions as other debt? Thank you. Uh, yes and yes. So in other words, it doesn't matter your age about your protected income. It's just a form of income. If you can be a pension no matter how old you are, it's protected. Social Security, you can be in your 20s or 30s, it's protected. Social Security disability or regular, any form of Social Security is protected. Now, HELP stands for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors, like I've explained before, seniors and disabled persons. The majority of our clients are seniors, but there's no magical age. It's just your source of income. So if it's Social Security, regardless of age, is protected. And yeah, medical debt, they can't. There's no exception. The only exception that someone could get at your Social Security would be uh, child support or alimony, which happens very rarely. And if that were to happen, call me and I'll talk to you about options. Uh, if you owed income taxes, the IRS could theoretically offset 15% of your Social Security after they give you a notice of 60 days of intent to do so. They give you plenty of time to get on what's called currently not collectible status with the IRS. We help people tell them how to do that, give them information on that. Right now, student loans aren't coming out. Student loans used to be able to offset 15% of Social Security. They legally still can do it, but they're not doing it right now. They were going to start it in May, and then 30 days later, the Department of Education announced, no, we're not going to offset 15% of Social Security for people. I think politically, the current administration, they don't want to do that. They've decided not to do that. Okay. This is some of these I'm reading for the first time. This person contacts us from Minnesota. A year or so ago, you contacted a collection agency for me, so this must be a client of HELP's. They got a judgment, and I complied with giving them information. Turns out they were not legally registered to do business in my state and were kicked out. Okay. Now another one is coming after me for what I assume is the same debt. Not really sure. Uh, well, if you already got a judgment against you, normally there'd just be one lawsuit for one judgment. Okay, but anyway, let me go on. Not really sure. And also, Social Security threatened with inflation. I have fallen behind on several cards and will never catch up. So apparently, he has some other credit cards that he never gave us. He says, "When do you notify creditors for your clients? When you give them to us, we send letters within. Our goal is to send them within 24 hours. I haven't received anything in the mail, just texts and emails." If Trump had his way and they eliminate Social Security, Trump doesn't want to eliminate Social Security. I'm not political here, but there's no talk of Social Security being eliminated. Don't get that out of your mind. If you're worried about that, should I wait until they threaten me by mail? Well, if you happen, so this person is a member of HELPS and someone else is contacting him. If you, it's nice to get something in mail because then what we need is the name and address of the creditor or the collector who's trying to collect from you, and then an account number. A lot of times they'll have a file number or account number. Now, in the meantime, if they were to call you on the phone, you'd simply say, you're represented by helps, you give them our name and number and hang up the phone. But if you know who they are, sometimes you can get us the information and we can try sending them a letter. We have a pretty good master address list, as you can imagine. But it's always nice to have an account number. That way, when they get it, it's easy for them to identify who you are, so they stop bothering you. Here's a guy contacts us from Texas, and he says, I'm a veteran, 61 years old, recently 100% disabled. I have credit cards and back taxes that I cannot afford to pay due to my lowered income. Is there any relief from you? Is there any relief for me? Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to be able to help you with the credit card debt. We're going to be able to help you with the taxes, tell you what you can do, why you don't need to worry. So if you're that person or someone like that, don't assume that there's something we can't do. We're pretty good at this. We've been doing it for a long time, and we know what to do to help people. Know exactly what to do to help people. There haven't been too many situations that ever come up that we don't know the answer for. And whenever that happens, we're excited about it because we'll get the answer, but it doesn't happen very often. Okay. So this person contacts us from Florida. They get Social Security and a federal pension. Husband became disabled, so they bought a paraplegic. So they bought a mobility van. It's a van where you can, wheel in with a wheelchair. The person they bought from is reassured that if they ever wanted to surrender or sell it, there would be no issues. So apparently they bought it from a private party, I'm guessing. I haven't read this before, so let's go on. The husband has since passed away 6 months ago. So she turned it over to them to sell on her behalf. She had decided she'd sell it on her own first, but the person won't return it to her, saying she'll owe $4,500 when he inevitably sells it. So apparently she turned it over to someone else to sell, and they won't give it back to her. But anyway, she's having the bank come repossess it to avoid the trouble. So she's telling the bank where it's at. She's saying, hey, I gave it to this person to sell for me, and they're not going to give it back to me. This is where they're at. She already decided to say screw it on the credit cards and stopping those payments since her credit is already shot. Good, you don't need to pay it anymore. We discussed how her income was protected. She didn't need to worry, quoted her fees, and I think she enrolled in helps, it looks like. So the point is, if you have a vehicle, an RV, or a car, a boat, a trailer, camper, I don't care, fifth wheel. If you can't afford the payment, you can stop the payment, let it go back. Okay, they're going to sell it eventually. They're going to repossess it. They're going to sell it. They're going to send you what's called a deficiency notice saying how much money you owe. If you're a member of HELPS, you're going to give us that notice. We're going to send a cease and desist letter out to the lender. Let him know that you can't afford to pay it. You don't need to pay it. So you can stop making if you've got a vehicle that you can't afford to pay anymore, you can stop making the payment and let it go back. Okay? We got emails that go and explain that in detail. Person contacts us from Kentucky. She was referred to us by an agent from Sunshine Capital. She's been sued by Synchrony Bank and is truly stressed to tears on the call. Been doing her best to maintain and work out her payment plans with creditors. She has about 5 credit cards she can no longer keep up with, but is very upset that she did her best and signed up for help only to be sued. So apparently she went to this Sunshine Capital. They might be a debt management company. And if they referred her to us, bless their hearts, they should have referred to us sooner. But anyway, we went through the lawsuit process and I assured her everything. This is a note from one of our paralegals. Everything is going to be okay. She was thankful for the time taken to walk her through everything and happy she was referred to us. She had never heard of HELPS before and didn't know her funds are protected. She will be getting the lawsuit paper into us and her other creditors. And the last thing it says, such a sweet lady. That's one of our attorneys that helps. If you're a woman, you're always a sweet lady. She always puts that note down there. And why wouldn't you be? If we tell you you don't have to pay this debt, then you're going to be okay. You'd be relieved. Okay, we got a couple more minutes before we're done. I guess, it's close enough to the hour that I'm going to end now. This next one is a little bit long. But thanks for participating today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call us, 855-435-7787. We always ask that you press the like button, share what we do with others, subscribe to our channel. If you talk to someone that might need our help, don't hesitate to tell them about helps. And then I will see you tomorrow at the same time. God bless and have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye.